What's up guys, MizzoFrizzo from Pitchfork Academy here, and in this Unreal Engine 5 tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a save game and save data in Unreal Engine 5. So as you can see here, I've got a high score up the top right of 3, and if I beat this by shooting 4 or more of these targets, it is going to save my high score, so now it is 5, and if I exit the pie and I press play again, you'll see that it has saved my game there. It has saved that data, my high score, as 5. So this can work with any kind of data. This is just a quick little mini game I set up to demonstrate the saving of data here, but this will save any kind of data. So once again, you can see if I press escape and play again, it has a high score of 7, and this will work in a packaged project as well. This is proper functionality for saving data in your game in Unreal Engine 5. So without further ado, let me show you how to do this. Alrighty guys, now for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to create a new project using the first person template, but FYI, you don't have to do it like this. You will still, by following along, get a very good idea of how to save data in your game. So with that in mind, I'm going to hit create. And the first thing I'm going to do once the editor has fired up is create a new folder. I'm going to call it Blueprints. And in Blueprints, I'm going to create a game instance for this project. So if you don't already have a game instance, you are going to want to create one. Because they are persistent between levels, it is a good way to store data and to handle your save game from there. So I'm going to right click and go to Blueprint class, drop down this all classes right here and search for game instance and select game instance, hit select, and I'm just going to call this BP underscore game inst. I'm also going to create my save game by right clicking and going to Blueprint class and searching for save game, selecting save game, hit select, and I'm just going to call this BP underscore save game. I'm going to hit save all, and then I'm going to go to edit and project settings, and I'm going to search for game instance, and I'm going to set the game instance class of this project to the BP game instance that we've just created. Now, you can only have one game instance per project. It's kind of a class of Blueprint that is loaded up when you start your game, and it's not destroyed until you close your game. So as I said, it's persistent between levels, so it is a very good place to handle your save games. Now that we've set that in our project settings, let's open it up. And in here, we're basically going to have the basic functionality to handle our save game. So the first thing we can do is right click and find a node called event init. So on initialization, what we're first going to do is check if we have a save game already. So we can find a node called does save game exist. And the slot name here, we're not going to go into using multiple slots on this tutorial, but I'm just going to call this slot save slot underscore 1. And I'm going to promote this to a variable in case we want access to it later. And I'm just going to call it save slot name. And what we can do is drag off of this return value and get a branch. And this is checking if we do already have a save game in existence. If we do not, what we want to do is create one. So create save game object. And the save game class is going to be the BP save game that we've created. And then I'm going to promote this to a variable, and I'm going to call it save game. So this is if we didn't have a save, we are creating one. And if we do have one, we want to load from it. So we can drag off of true here and load save game from slot, load game from slot. And the slot name is going to be the save slot name here. So we can duplicate that and plug that in there. And then we can use this object reference to cast to it. So cast to our BP save game. And then we can duplicate this set node and we can set this save game variable as the return from that cast right there. So now we have nice little handy access to our save game and our save game slot as variables here, we can now set up some functionality to actually save data inside of that save game. So we can right click down here and create a new custom event, and I'm just going to call it save, and we are going to save game to slot, and we can grab this save slot name here, and we can also grab our save game and plug it into the save game object. And that is all we need to do to save our game. If you want, you can put a branch on this return value, and this is essentially on success and on failure. So if you wanted to have, functionality on success of saving your game or on failure of saving your game, you could put that here. You could even just, for testing purposes, put a print string and say game saved. And I'm going to duplicate that, and on false, I'm going to say failed to save game. Nice. So that is pretty much all we need to do in the game instance. That is some very handy code right there that allows you to create a save game and a reference to it, and then you can call this save whenever you want to save your game. So now that we've done that, let's compile and save and close that, and let's open up our save game, and let's create some sort of little mini game here that we can save. So I can show you this saving some data. So let's open up our save game and store a variable in here. So I'm going to create one variable. I'm going to call it high score, and that's going to be of type integer. I'm going to compile and save this and close this. That's literally all I'm going to do in there for the purposes of this tutorial. I'm going to change that high score variable and save it so that you can see this saving some data. So let's create a little bit of a mini game here. I'm going to create a target blueprint that we are going to shoot with the FP rifle right here, and it's going to increase our score, the number of targets hit, and we will save that. So let's create our little target blueprint first. I'm going to drag out a cylinder here, and then I'm going to press Control B to browse to that static mesh, and I'm going to right click on that cylinder and go to Asset Actions and create blueprint using this. I'm going to store it in the blueprints folder I created, and I'm going to call it BP underscore target, like so. And in here, I'm just going to add a scene root, so scene, and I'm going to drag scene onto the static mesh so that the static mesh is now a child of the scene root. So I can rotate this 90 degrees, and let's scale it down so it is more narrow, like so. And I might scale it up just a little bit to make it a little bit bigger, like so. Now I'm going to make this interact with my game mode to increase my score. So I'm going to also find my game mode here, my BP first person game mode, and browse to that. And we're also going to need the projectile blueprint in here. So inside of the game mode, what I'm going to do, open full blueprint editor. And all I'm going to do in here for now is create a custom event, and I'm going to call it increment score, like so. And this is just what I'm going to call from my blueprint, my target blueprint, to increment my score. We'll set this up, and we'll set up some other stuff in here shortly, but that's all I'm going to do for now. And I'm also going to open up the BP first person projectile, and in the details panel, I'm going to search for tag, and I'm going to add an actor tag, and I'm just going to call this tag bullet. So this is how we're going to check if this projectile has hit our BP target, which we can head back over to now and go to the details panel of this static mesh and scroll all the way down. And here I'm going to hit this little plus icon on component hit, and it creates this event on component hit. So when this component is hit by another actor, we can check if the other actor has tag, bullet, put a branch on this Boolean. And then all I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a do once to make sure this only happens once per target. I am going to create a reference to my game mode very quickly on event begin play. I am going to get game mode, and I'm going to cast to my first person game mode on event begin play. And I'm going to just create a reference to this promote to variable and call it game mode. And now that we have this variable game mode, what we can do here when this hits a projectile, a bullet, we can get our game mode and we can call that increment score, custom event that we created in our game mode. And then after that, we can just destroy this actor. Destroy actor. Nice. That is pretty much all we need to do inside of our target. And now we can go back over to our first person game mode and we can set up some functionality in here. Basically what this is going to do is increase our score and then check it against the high score in our save game. So let's find event begin play. And let's create a reference to our game instance. So we can get game instance and cast to our BP game instance or game inst. Promote this to a variable. Call it game inst. And then here, let's also get our high score from our save game, and we'll store that in here. So let's get the save game, and inside of the save game we can get that high score variable that we created earlier, and I'm going to promote this to a variable and just call it high score so that we have so that the game mode has its own record of the high score currently as well. This will just come in handy in a moment. Let's also duplicate that high score variable and let's just call the other one score. And what we're going to do is get our score here and increment int. So every time increment score is called from a target, it will just add 1 to the score. And then what we can do is we can get our game instance here, get the save game reference inside of it, get the high score variable inside of the save game, and then we can check if this is greater than the high score in our save game. Hold B and click to get a branch. And if this is greater than the high score in our save game, then we can increase our high score. So we can set our high score as the score. So if the score that is set here is greater than the high score, it becomes the high score. And we also need to set this inside of our save game. So we can get these two nodes here and duplicate them. And inside of our save game, we're going to set that high score value in there as this one right here. And this will set that variable inside of the save game, but it will not save it. To save it, we need to trigger the save game, the save function that we created inside of our game instance. So we can drag off of here and just find save, and now that will save like so. And just to sort of display this on the screen, I'm going to create a widget very, very quickly to display our score and our high score. So I'm going to go back to our blueprints folder here. I'm going to right click, user interface, widget blueprint, and user widget. And I'm going to call this WBP underscore score. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to grab a canvas panel, drag it down here, and I'm also going to get some text and drag it down here. I am going to anchor this text to the top right, and I'm going to make this text box quite a lot bigger. and I am also going to align it to the right, and this just makes sure that it sort of pushes out to the left. If it gets longer and longer, it will push out to the left. And I will also duplicate this text, and I will put the other one down the bottom right, anchor it to the bottom right, and actually let's just change the font to something like 60 on both of these to make it nice and big. 60 and 60, nice. Let's head on over to the graph, and on event construct, I'm just going to create a reference to my game mode so that it is easier to pull these figures from my game mode. So I am going to get game mode, cast to it, cast to BP, cast to first person game mode. We're using first person game mode. Sorry, drew a mental blank there for a moment. And I'm going to promote this to a variable and just call it game mode. And now, if I want to pull my score or my high score from the game mode, it will be very easy. I can go back to the designer. I can click on this one down here, and I can click bind, create binding. And what I'm going to do is first get an append string node right here. And I'm going to call this one score colon and add a space. This will plug in here, and I will get my game mode, get the score, and plug it in here. And I am also going to grab all of these nodes, Control C to copy them, go back to my designer, click this other one up here, and bind, create binding, and I'm going to paste these in here. This will plug in here. This will become high score, and this will be the high score from our game mode, like so. And the very last thing we need to do is just add this widget to the viewport. Oh, this has not worked. Why hasn't this worked? First person game mode doesn't have high score. First person game mode, maybe this just needed to be compiled. I think I just needed to compile that first person game mode. That would have been the issue there. And now we just need to add this widget to the viewport, which I'm just going to do in my first person character. So I'm going to go to my first person blueprints folder and open my BP first person character. I'm going to find event begin play. And on event begin play, I'm going to create widget. The widget I'm going to create is my WBP score. I'm going to add to viewport. And this should all be set up and working now. So if I hit compile and save, and I might just hit save all just in case, and hit play. I need to put my BP targets in the world. It's the very last thing I need to do. So I'm going to go to my blueprints folder, get my BP target, and I'm going to pull out one of these, and I'm going to duplicate it a bunch of times. Let's stand back here and have a look how this is looking. A bunch of times, and I might just duplicate this a few more times, and I'll rotate these ones a little bit, and I will also rotate these ones a little bit. Whoops, wasn't holding shift there. And just sort of rotate them a little bit towards my platform over here. Like so. Nice. So now if I hit play, I've got my widget here. I can grab my FP rifle. Oh, my widget is pushed off the screen here, so hold on. I just need to check the designer. I might actually just put these on the left-hand side of the screen. I'm not great with the widget designer, so I don't really know why that would be happening, but I'm just going to align these and anchor these to the left and align them to the left, and that should fix my issue there. Nice, so I can see my high score and my score now, and if I shoot one of these targets, boom, my high score goes up, my score goes up, And you can see up the top left, it's printing a string saying game saved, game saved. So now my high score is 4. And if I exit the Pi, I can now press play again, and my high score will still be there. Nice. And it will only save if I beat that high score. It will do that check. So there, that one's not going to save, but if I hit one more, it will say at the top left, game saved. And I can even close the Pi now and reopen, and this will be saved. If I packaged this game would be saving this high score. So just to demonstrate that, I'm very, very quickly going to close my editor and reopen this project. All right, back in my project now, guys, and if I hit play, you'll see that my save game has indeed worked. My high score has been saved. So that is working as intended. These targets are a little bit harder to hit than I thought they would be. I need a crosshair. Nice. So that has worked. Guys, if this tutorial has been of any use or value to you whatsoever, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.